This is Bishop Michael Burbidge, and you are listening to the Walk Humbly Podcast.
Welcome to the Walk Humbly Podcast. I'm Billy Atwell, Chief Communications Officer for the Diocese and your co-host. Please write a review on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Overcast, wherever you listen. Write a review and rate this podcast. It would do us a great service. You can also sign up for our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org, and you can follow Bishop Burbidge on Twitter, where you can read a short reflection on the gospel of that day every day. You can also follow the Diocese on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can send your questions for Bishop Burbidge to info@arlingtondiocese.org. Again, that's info@arlingtondiocese.org. I welcome your host, Bishop Burbidge. Bishop, how are you?
Great, Billy. Great to be with you, and grateful to our listeners in this very busy month of January, where the Church in the United States, we're doing so many different events and celebrating so many wonderful occasions.
Yeah, just this past weekend we had the March for Life in D.C. and on Sunday we had the Transitional Deacon ordination for Deacon Guillermo Gonzalez. Let's start with Deacon Gonzalez's ordination. For those who weren't there, what should they know about that?
Well, any ordination is one of the greatest joys in the life of a priest, that through the imposition of hands as a successor to the apostles and the prayer of ordinations, a new deacon, a new priest comes to life. And so what a great gift that is to the church, what it is, a wonderful privilege for me as a bishop. A transitional deacon is someone who is preparing to become a priest. So he's a transitional deacon for, usually a year, could be less in Deacon Guillermo's case, and a permanent deacon. We are blessed with the service of many permanent deacons in our diocese. They're not preparing for the priesthood. So,
right.
So when a man is ordained a deacon, priest, bishop, they are configured permanently and forever to the very person of Jesus Christ. And it is in his name that they're sent forth to be his sacramental presence in the church and within the world. It's interesting to note, I think most of our listeners may be familiar that the priests, those who are ordained priests, promise celibacy so that they give their entire lives to the Lord and his church. But you actually first make that promise at diaconate. If you're a transitional deacon preparing for priesthood.
Right, so if you're unmarried,
right,
then you're making that commitment.
So that was a commitment that Deacon Guillermo, and a wonderful witness and example he gave. All of our men who are ordained deacons or priests are unique, just like the Lord did with the apostles. Mm-hmm. We're all unique, different gifts, different abilities, different limitations. Something unique about Deacon Guillermo, again, a wonderful man. But he is from El Salvador,
right?
And he studied in Spain. He was also pursuing a discerning call to religious order, the disciples of the hearts of Jesus and Mary. But in his discernment, he was led to discern the diocesan priesthood.
That's wonderful.
And he lives in this diocese, St. Leo's Parish, where we had the ordination. And so it shows you, right, God's way, God's call. It's never always a straight line. I'm sure our listeners know that. But it's the path that we follow according to his will. And we're so blessed that the Lord has led Deacon Guillermo to the Diocese of Arlington.
And now you began the ordination in Spanish. Have you begun an ordination in Spanish before?
Well, I have. I have ordained in my previous diocese men who were, Hispanic. So So yes.
Very good. Now, if you would like to see the full ordination video and also Bishop Burbidge's homily from that ordination, go to the Diocese of Arlington YouTube channel. You can watch it all there. You can also go to CatholicHerald.com, where we've got lots of photos from the ordination, videos, and you can learn more about our newest deacon. Before we get into our main topics, I wanted to get your reaction to, it's happened a few days ago now, but the death of Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and the 7 others on that helicopter in California. How tragic that was.
That is so tragic and so sad. And you're right. Our hearts, our sympathy, our prayers go out to all those who were on that helicopter, and especially to their families at this time, that they will know God's consolation, strength. I know they're surrounded by many prayers from around the world, actually, but very, very, very sad. Just the how young those people were. Kobe, I think, was 41 and his daughter's 13. The younger children, just very, very sad. But we always know that from what God promises is from suffering will come glory, and from death will come life. for all those who are united to him. And, I heard so many people pause, even in my own family and parishioners that with whom I've spoken, just say, a tragedy like this does wake us up a little bit, to help us to realize each day is a gift, that life here on earth is merely a journey. The Lord never promised us a certain amount of time we're going to make this journey. He only told us that one day our life here will come to an end, and on that day we should be prepared and ready to meet him. I heard a number of the parishioners telling me that, they gave an extra hug to their wife and to their children the next day, because it's so easy that, we're never guaranteed that we're going to see each other again. And so to treasure each day, to treasure each moment that we have together. I heard a beautiful insight too from one of my family members that, you do hear at this time, like it just seems so unfair, and that someone with like so much potential could be taken at a young age. And I think my family member said that, but I'm sure at this point, Kobe Bryant, perhaps the others are saying, but I'm really grateful for that time I did have, especially the final years and months of my life, to kind of redirect my life and to get my priorities in order, because Kobe Bryant, like all of us, have made some mistakes in life, and we even Kobe Bryant's there's some a serious issue, and he had to make sure that he redirected his life. And I'm like, would you rather? This is what my family member said. Would you rather be given more time on earth and just continue down a path that was destructive, or would you rather be given some time to fix that, amend that, and then be with God?
Yeah.
I know those words never help
so
in a
insightful.
tragedy like that, but it is something important for all of us to learn. And we learned that beautiful fact too, right? That Kobe and his daughter went to Mass that morning. That was the last thing they did together.
So remarkable to read.
For the helicopter.
I didn't realize he was Catholic. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He is actually from. He went to high school, Lower Merion, right around the corner, just about from the seminary in Philadelphia. Where I attended. Yeah. So
wow.
Very familiar with that high school.
So you've heard his name for a long time.
Oh, many years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So God rests, and God grant eternal rest and peace to those who died, strength and consolation to their families.
Absolutely. So, Bishop, we're just on the heels of last week's National March for Life, as well as our very own Life is Very Good rally, which was so successful. What are your thoughts coming out of those two events?
Well, that rally is just incredible. It's the night before the March for Life. So why do we do it? Number one is hospitality. Mm-hmm. There's 8,000 people in that arena, many of whom are real pilgrims who have traveled hours and hours and hours on the bus, from, the Midwest and beyond, and true pilgrims. So we, as a diocese, say, well, the night before, you need something to do.
Right.
So we'll provide you that place, and we also provide our parishes, open up their doors where they can stay the night before and all too. And it's a night, it's a night we're always best when we prepare. Right? So we want to go to the March for Life at our very best. So the rally, with its music that the young people like, very gifted speakers, opportunity to sing and all those things, brings out that zeal, that energy that we want them to bring to the march. But we conclude the night, as I know many of our parishioners realize, with the procession of the Blessed Sacrament through the George Mason Arena there.
Yeah.
And so that's the last thing we do at the night. And what a way to prepare. That we entrust all that we hope to accomplish through the march to the Lord, realizing it's always He who leads us and we who follow. And so I think bringing out that zeal, placing it in the hands of the Lord, there's no better way to prepare for the march the next day.
I want to ask you about Life is Very Good, that procession. It always is so remarkable for me. And this year, I'm usually down on the floor. I actually went up into the stands to kind of get just a different vantage point on it. And it was beautiful to see. But I thought as I was up there, I wonder what the vantage point is like for you. So as you're processing around and you're holding Jesus there in the monstrance, but you see there's 8,000 kids, I think, in that arena. You see all these kids focused
Right.
on a single thing. When we think young people can't focus, they can't be quiet.
Right.
You think, if you close your eyes, you think you're the only person in that arena. What is it like for you behind that monstrance walking around?
It's very solemn. It's very inspiring. I think like the young people, I'm in a different state too. I mean, there I am carrying the Lord, looking at Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament too. So I'm not, like you said, I'm not even aware of the other people. I'm aware of the profound silence.
Yeah.
But it's an encounter, right? I said to the young people before, see Jesus looking at you. He is looking at you, and now you look at him. And that's an encounter. That's a moment of realizing the great love that the Lord has for us. And at the march the next day, just to look down and see the people. I actually, a reporter was talking to me and said, throughout his career, he has covered a lot of demonstrations and protests and march. And he said, so often you see anger. And rarely do you see, it was his first time at the March for Life, what he encountered today. He says, I've never seen a march where there was peacefulness, serenity, and prayer. And I said, he goes, how is that? I said, because we have the truth. We have the truth. What we were witnessing on was the gospel of life. All of life is sacred. From the moment of conception, all of life is sacred. So when you have the truth, as Pope Francis says, you have the joy of the gospel. The joy of the gospel. What is tragic, what is horrifically sad, is that abortions continue every day and is legal in our country.
Right.
That's sad. But we have the truth, and if we witness on behalf of that, so we know if people embrace it, then our world, would be better. And life would be revered and protected.
I got the chance. I was there at the march with one of our seminarians and talking with him. And I when we're looking at this just massive people, I said, "Isn't this amazing?" And he said, what's really amazing about it? He said, is most protests and marches and so on, you're marching for your own rights. He goes, we all made it.
Right.
Our mothers chose life.
That's right.
He goes, how many demonstrations will have a turnout like this for someone else? You're not there for your own. You're there for someone else's.
Yeah, that's a great insight.
And he said, I don't think that happens anymore. I never thought of it that way. But I think that's also part of where the joy comes from, is people are doing this in self-sacrifice for someone else. I'm doing this for someone, taking the day off work, fighting the cold, and all the different logistical challenges it takes to getting down there.
Exactly.
But it was such a great insight, again, from our seminarians.
Very much so.
Yeah. And Bishop, kind of bridging out of that, Virginia's a battleground state, as you know, certainly for pro-life issues at this moment. We have, overwhelmingly, unfortunately, pro-abortion legislature. And many of the folks that have presented bills in the last session that were so radical and actually were featured in national headlines and lots of pushback are at it again this year. The Virginia Catholic Conference, Jeff Caruso there was working very hard and around the clock to push back, but it's an uphill battle. In fact, just yesterday, the Senate passed a bill that reversed key pro-life provisions like a 24-hour waiting period before an abortion is performed, the requirement of an ultrasound, and perhaps the most stunning for anybody is the requirement for an abortionist to be a physician. It can now be a nurse practitioner or a PA can perform the abortion. What is your reaction, and what do you want people to do? Yeah, well, it's so sad, and I was really horrified actually. When I saw what was passed, by the Senate. And it not only jeopardizes the rights and life of the child, but it puts the woman at tremendous risk. So true. It really does. I think it was entirely irresponsible. And while it's unlikely that this bill will be shot down, I hope it fails. But like you said, the momentum is just going in the wrong direction here. And boy, we have every reason to be very concerned, and to do our part, to bring our faith, our moral values, and commitments into the public arena. The nation's watching Virginia, I'm sure. They're looking to see if our state, which was, viewed in more with moderate or even pro-life positions for a long time, will slide deeper toward pro-abortion legislation. And so many think that, as Virginia goes, the nation will go. That's true, yeah. It's not looking too good here. No, it's not. And so this is a type of legislative session that we may not be able to recover from unless the faithful
make their voices known.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying to our listeners, I'm saying to parishioners, actually I would say, let me just suggest two things right now.
Okay.
The first is, let's bring your family to the Virginia March for Life in Richmond on February the 13th.
Absolutely.
I'll be there beginning the day with Bishop Nestow of Richmond. We'll celebrate Mass. And then, as we did in our nation's capital, thousands of pro-life witnesses from around the Commonwealth will be there. And like we just said, we're there on behalf of others. We're there to witness to the gospel of life. And also, I would encourage, as I often do, our listeners to sign up for the Virginia Catholic Conference alerts.
Yes.
We have a great conference, that keeps us posted on what's being proposed, what the next legislative steps will be, how we can make a difference, to whom we should contact, and all those things. And so I really do, and we don't hound people. We just give them alerts of what's needed. Maybe you could suggest how they do that.
Yes, definitely. So if you go to vacatholic.org, that's where you can sign up for these action alerts. And these action alerts, like Bishop Burbidge just said, they're really specific. When we know, okay, something's coming to the floor, or now is when your voice needs to be heard. There aren't kind of arbitrary emails sent out. When you need to know something, we make sure that you know it. It's done through the Virginia Catholic Conference. Again, vacatholic.org. Jeff Caruso is the executive director, and he's got a team. And I think they're wearing their shoes out in the Capitol as of late, trying to fight on behalf of the unborn, for pro-life issues, religious liberty issues. If you want to know what's going on so that you can have your voice heard, go to vacatholic.org and sign up for those action alerts. It's important for every Catholic in our diocese to know what's going on and to respond. We cannot be silent when these kinds of things happen. Bishop, we're nearing the end of Catholic Schools Week, which is joyful, and I know you've been to many of our schools. You're never shy about how proud you are of our Catholic schools. What have you been up to?
Yeah, I love Catholic school visits, and so I certainly do a few of them. Throughout this Catholic Schools Week, which is such a delight. I was at our newest Blue Ribbon School, St. Francis of Assisi,
That's right.
Triangle there, and which is a reminder. Not only are our Catholic schools strong in Catholic identity and in teaching the faith, that's why we exist, but they're also excellent in they have excellence in education.
Right.
And so I am very proud of our schools. And I was at Queen of Apostles and Paul VI, and I was up at the Cathedral and Ireton. So I love getting out to our schools. It's a great opportunity for me, first of all, to thank our parents, who are the first teachers of their children in the ways of faith, for the sacrifices they make in order that their children can go to a school where the faith is taught every day, where we pray every day, where we can stop a school day and have Mass. I know there are great sacrifices to thank our Catholic educators.
Oh, yeah.
These are pros, and these Catholic educators could be making, frankly, a lot of more money teaching in other schools. But they say, no, this is a vocation. I have the privilege of helping parents in the faith formation of their children. And so we owe deep thanks to them and to our pastors who in so many ways support our Catholic schools. And so I do thank all of them. I am very proud of our Catholic schools. And I have some goals for our Catholic schools. And, these are goals that we're going to continue to work at. I want to try to make them more affordable, so more of our students can attend them. I want to make sure that we reflect the diversity of our diocese in our school. We have to do a better job there. And as you know, a primary goal for me in our Catholic schools is to be able to include our students who have learning disabilities.
That's right.
Not just to find a space for them in the school, but to make sure that they're integrated within the school. I was just at Paul VI High School yesterday, which is, I think, the first school in our diocese to do this. They call it the Options Program. It's been at school for over 20 years.
That's remarkable.
And to see how our students with learning disabilities, and we say learning gifts, that they bring, are just part of the school, part of the community. It is just such a gift, and it brings out the best in everyone. And so we're really we're proud that four of our high schools will have that kind of program, and more and more of our schools are doing that. But there's resources needed to do that.
Absolutely.
Both with finances and personnel, so it can't happen overnight. But
Yeah.
we're moving forward to it, and gives me an opportunity to, put a plug in for our Bishop's Lenten Appeal, for example. Our schools, our ministries is a ministry that benefits from the generosity of our people, and we would like to use some of those funds to make our options programs more available in our schools.
That's wonderful. Again, arlingtondiocese.org. You can learn more about the Bishop's Lenten Appeal, as well as our Catholic schools. You can find one there and understand what makes them so special, what makes them so successful as well. Bishop, I've heard you speak on so many occasions about how impactful religious sisters have been on your life, especially in the early years of your formation as a Catholic. On February 1st, you're going to be celebrating Mass for the Religious Sisters Jubilee in our diocese. Talk a little bit about how religious sisters have impacted you, and why should people consider coming to this Mass?
Right. So I've been very blessed throughout my life, from kindergarten to college, having been taught by consecrated religious women religious, and by the Sister Servants of the Immaculate Heart of Mary.
Yeah.
But also in high school with the Sisters of St. Joseph, Sisters of Mercies, Sisters of St. Francis. In my 3 dioceses where I have served, have encountered various groups of women religious, and whose example, witness, extraordinary gifts in service of the Church have been such a blessing for me, and I have such admiration and respect. And we are very blessed to have a very good number of women religious here in our diocese. And so I try to gather with them at least a couple times a year to lift up their vocation, to pray with them, and to thank them. And it's going to be a great day on Saturday. And it's a great opportunity, because we are celebrating consecrated life in our church. It's always a great opportunity for our listeners. Maybe there is a woman religious, or even, maybe you had priest religious. If they're still with us, maybe in a retirement home or whatever, write them a note.
Yeah.
Let them know you remember them. Say thank you to them.
That would be very
It would go a long way.
So those that would like to attend this Jubilee Mass, it's going to be at St. Luke's Parish at 11 a.m. on Saturday, this coming Saturday, February 1st. So make sure you put that in your calendars if you want to come up. But again, that's St. Luke's Parish at 11 a.m. on Saturday, February 1st. Bishop, we have a couple questions from the faithful. All right. So the first is from Thomas. The question is, how was the Mass schedule decided at specific parishes? I'm assuming there are a number of considerations involved, including what's being done in neighboring parishes, and these things are decided at the diocesan level to some extent. So that's his question about how are Mass times decided.
Okay, good
parishes?
question. But it's really decided at the local level, at the parish. It's not at the diocese level. The pastor of the parish, will know the pastoral needs of his parishioners, and that would be his decision. And I think I think the way it is decided, the way I think it should be decided, is identifying, what is the best time for parishioners. One pastor told me recently that they thought they had the perfect schedule and decided to do a survey. And the survey was really surprising to them. Never realized that why would the 9:30 or whatever it was, Mass, and people gave all the reasons. And it didn't seem to make sense from their perspective, the priest's perspective, but they listened, changed the schedule, and guess what happened?
What happened?
An increase in the number of people who were attending Mass.
Wow.
It was, and people have done that with confessions in our diocese. It always,
I've heard that, yeah.
Right. It always used to be, 3 to 4 on Saturday afternoon, and people say, that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what would work? And guess what happens? The increase. So
that's true.
I encourage our pastors, periodically, not, I think frequently, every few years or whatever, assess the parish. Is the schedule work? And decide how many masses you need.
Yeah.
Because you've always had 5. Maybe the community would be stronger if you had 4. Or maybe 4 is not enough. Whatever is going on, that's one of the reasons we do the October count. Our Catholic Herald did an article on that. We actually, not that it's an exact science, but you get a number. After 3 weeks or so in October, this is how many people attend the masses throughout the weekend and at a particular time. What's that telling us?
Right.
Maybe parishes are pleasantly surprised. Wow. there's a higher percentage of people come into Mass than we thought, or maybe not.
Right.
And what do we need to do in our evangelization efforts? But to answer Thomas's question, I think it always should be what fits the best the needs of the parishioners, and I think that demands requires consultation.
Absolutely. Yeah, the article that Bishop was mentioning was published last year following the October count from 2018. We're going to be putting out another article like that following our 2019 October count here in the next month. Zoe Murray, our Herald writer, is working on that now, so you can stay tuned for it. All right, the next question is from a man named Kevin. His question is simple, but I'll explain. He says, do we have two popes? And at first I didn't know what that meant, but then I read further. What he's referring to is the fact that we have Pope Benedict, Pope Emeritus Benedict with us, and Pope Francis. So he's wondering, do we actually have two popes? So if you could answer that for me.
Yeah, no, sure. When you have a retired pope, just like when you have a retired bishop, no, you don't have two popes. You don't have two bishops. But let me explain what I mean by that. When Pope Benedict the 16th resigned, and Pope Francis was elected, Pope Benedict's title changed to Pope Emeritus Benedict, signifying that he no longer has the authority or responsibility of the chair of St. Peter, but he retains the title as an honor and to signify that he once held that position.
Okay.
So Pope Emeritus Benedict still has a personal priestly ministry. He writes books, he writes articles, he meets with people. His words don't carry the authority of being the Holy Father any longer, but he's a priest, and he continues that ministry. It's the same here in the Diocese of Arlington. In our diocese, Bishop Burbidge was our wonderful, tremendous bishop for many years, but he retired and I was installed. So Bishop Burbidge's title changed, Bishop Emeritus. He continues to live out his priestly ministry and his episcopal ministry by helping me in teaching and with the confirmations and the celebration. And we're so blessed to have his ongoing presence and ministry in our diocese. But the way the church refers to it, I am the ordinary of the diocese. Right. And so that belongs to the bishop who has been installed.
I always figured that has to be a word translated from Latin or Italian, because ordinary doesn't sound as inspiring of a title. But
exactly. So I hope that answers Kevin's question there.
Very good. Now, last question is from me, if I may.
Okay.
Super Bowl predictions.
There you go.
What we've all been waiting for.
Super Bowl Sunday is like a national holiday now.
I know. Well, you study this stuff pretty well. You're not just kind of a loose football fan.
No,
you really know what's going on.
I have to say I am. So, I'm definitely rooting for the Chiefs because Andy Reid coached the Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone knows by now. I know they're probably tired of hearing it. Everyone knows I'm an Eagles fan. And Andy Reid coached the Eagles for 13 years, and I thought always a great coach and a good man, good man. And he's from so a lot of his assistant coaches became head coaches. And a number of them have won the Super Bowl, may I say, including Doug Peterson of the Philadelphia Eagles. But he's never won a Super Bowl. He's produced all these other coaches. So I'd be really, really happy for him if he won the Super Bowl. And I'll give a prediction.
All right,
I actually think they will win by 10 points.
All right. You heard it here first.
There you go.
Bishop, any other final thoughts, and if you would send us off with your blessing?
No. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all that you do daily to live out your vocations. And don't forget, God always rewards your efforts. Everything that you're trying to do, those efforts are rewarded too. So continue to persevere. Let's keep praying for one another so that we may walk humbly with our God. Thank you for listening to the Walk Humbly podcast. Make sure you check out more episodes on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can follow me on Twitter at Bishop Burbidge, where I offer gospel reflections each morning and share photos and updates of what is going on in the Diocese of Arlington. Stay up to date with news, event information, and inspirational content by subscribing to our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org.